let's get into it. And I need to bring my mouse back. Oh gosh, seamless, isn't it? Um, oh dear. Rightio, you are in the right place. We are learning about the TM6, and we are going to have a first lesson on the TM6. Now, I will just spotlight myself for everybody as well. Possibly, maybe not. Am I big for everybody or not? I'm only one of the people. I don't know how to do that. Hang on a sec. Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys. I know this is riveting, watching the recording of this. There we go. I'm big now, hopefully. So hopefully me and the Thermomix will be a little bit bigger for you now as well. Rightio. So we are going to learn about the TM6. So I hope everybody's got their TM6 unpacked at least. Yes? Everyone's got it out of the box. Excellent. Thumbs up. Love it. Thank you. So I guess one of the first things, obviously, when there is an update for the TM6, and I've actually got, there's one happening for my TM6 at the moment that I have ignored and said, remind me later. But when there is an update, just hit update. If you don't have time to do it at the time, just hit update later. Next time you turn your Thermomix on, it will remind you, or you can go into the settings and go into the updates. So your TM6 will remain very up to date with any bits and pieces that get sent that it does have capabilities for. So that's good news as well. When you get your Thermomix, up on the top screen here, there will be a little mention about your 3 months free Cookidoo subscription. Has everyone managed to get that? Yep. Okay, excellent. If you haven't managed to get your 3 months Cookidoo subscription yet, just click on that notification. It will open up a QR code, and what you need to do is you need to scan the QR code on your phone where Cookidoo is logged in on your phone, and it will then marry up. Basically, you scan that, you'll put your details in, it will marry up that your 3 months free Cookidoo is coming over to your Cookidoo account. So just let me know if you need help with that. Sometimes it does get a little bit lost, but it will be there in your little notifications at the top if you haven't done it yet. So then once your Thermomix is set up, we've got the 3 main screens. So I can actually hopefully go to my screen here. Oh, maybe. There we go. There we go. Hopefully that's a little bit better for you so you can see it. So we've got our time, temperature, speed screen. And I know some of you have had TM31s and TM5s in the past. So you'll know all about time, temperature, speed. All of our Thermomix recipes are pretty much built around time, temperature, speed. So this screen, you can just do time, temperature, speed manually. So if you touch the time, you talk to that. If you touch the speed, you talk to that with the knob. And then once you press the speed, sorry, that's the temperature. Once you touch the speed, you can choose to be in normal or reverse just by pressing the blades there. And then once you're there, you just turn it, the lid locks and it starts. And that is what we call manual mode, okay? Now, if we are in our other modes, we scroll over to this side, so just across that way, and this is where we access all of our other modes, okay? So there's lots of stuff in here. So and yours might be in a different order to mine. You can actually edit that and put the ones that you use more often at the top to help you be able to be a little bit more user-friendly. But basically, you've got your scales. If you've got a Thermomix sensor, the mode for that is there. The chop function, which is just basically a guide on how long you'll need to chop things for in the Thermomix as well. So there's just a whole heap of different ingredients. If you want to chop an onion, you go into onions. It says how many onions have you got, and it will actually help you set how long you'll need to chop onions, if you didn't know how to do that. So that's chop mode. Dough mode is just our normal, obviously all of our breads and our doughs. Instead of kneading, you can use that manually if you like in the mode. Our turbo is just a burst of power. So if a recipe said, if a non-Thermomix recipe said, pulse that in a blender, that would be turbo. Okay, it's just full belt for 1 second or 2 seconds. We've got our pre-clean, which is our, to pop your water in and get started with that cleaning process. Blend is if you're just, making a smoothie and you want to blend up, just up to speed 9 gradually, basically. That's there. Egg boil mode, my personal favorite mode, actually. So you just choose how you would like your eggs boiled. You put your eggs straight in the bowl with a litre of water. And you can do as many eggs as you can cover with a litre of water. So if they're only little eggs, that's okay. You can put more in, but you want to fill it up to the litre mark, put your eggs in and choose how you would like your eggs cooked. We do love that. Back to this mode. Kettle, that's just, you can use that instead of a kettle. We've got our warm up function, which is just if you're reheating something that you made in the Thermomix the next day, you can pop it on and reheat it. Thicken mode is pretty self-explanatory. That's for all of our sauces and, our béarnaise and our hollandaise and all of that. That you actually do access mostly in recipes, in guided recipes, because obviously you're not going to deviate too much from those recipes yourself or on your own modes. However, my husband likes to put water and Gravox, like gravy powder, in the Thermomix and put it on thicken mode, and it does that really well as well. If you're into that, I am not. Rice cooker, fermentation, and slow cooker and sous vide really are all the modes where the Thermomix is on for a fairly long time on a low temperature. The blades are not moving and you are cooking something for like I said, for a long time. So the slow cook, from about an hour to 8 hours. Again, with most slow cook recipes, you're actually in a Cookidoo recipe, so you don't need to worry about coming into the modes. But if you were going to wing it and put in your favorite ingredients that you of a slow cooked meal, you could use the slow cook function yourself. The same with fermentation. When I'm doing, yogurts and stuff like that, I'm actually in the yogurt recipe. I'm not in the fermentation mode. But if you had a recipe that you really loved, you could go into fermentation mode yourself as well. And then you've got your peeler, your grater, your slicer, and your spiralizing. Now that's all dependent on you having the attachment for that, which I don't actually have my attachment, but I know a lot of you did get the cutter attachment with your TM6. So those modes have got to do with that attachment. Obviously, you can't use that unless you've got that attachment. And the same with the spiralizer. It's an attachment for the cutter that you need as well. So that's all of our modes. Now, if you slide the other way, I'll just go back to that screen. You sure can. You probably just haven't done the latest update, Helen. So you'll just need to go into your settings and do the latest update and they will all be there. Yep, they'll all pop in. Rightio. So now if I go the other way, so if I slide this way, this is where we connect directly with Cookidoo. So this is where all of those guided recipes live. Now, if you're accessing the guided recipes, I actually think it's better to do that on your phone or on your computer and put them in your week or bookmark them as your favorites or something like that. Not actually typing in to search on Cookidoo screen. That's just my personal preference. But if you were, if you just were winging it and, you wanted to type in one, you definitely could do that. So you could just type in, vegetable stock paste or whatever you were going to cook and it would go in there. But what I like to do, and I'll just go back to that screen and I'll get up our recipe that we're going to cook tonight, which is the vegetable stock paste, which by a show of hands, who's already made their vegetable stock paste? Oh, I can see Anne. Excellent. Excellent. Oh, very good. Oh, excellent. Everyone raves about that. I actually haven't. I'm a veggie stock only girl, okay? So I haven't dabbled in the other stocks, but everyone raves about that one, so hopefully it's good. Yeah, okay. Now, Betty said, tried to cook brown rice following the advice provided. After 2 hours, oh, 2 hours, the water nearly evaporated, but the rice was still hard. Oh, Betty, I've got lots of advice because it definitely should not take you 2 hours to make brown rice, but I'll cover that off in a sec. Rayo, so we're going to go into the, I'm going to go into my week. So I've gone into my little three little dots there, and I'm going to go into my week. And I've actually told the Thermomix or told Cookidoo that tonight I'm making vegetable stock. So the vegetable stock recipe will be there. I'll be able to click it, and I'll be able to click it again, and it will then say, okay, you can start cooking that recipe. Okay. And this is where your guided recipes come in. And like I said, if fermentation mode was in part of this recipe, it would automatically just go into that mode for you. So we're going to start cooking. Actually, before we start cooking, I'm going to talk to you about the bowl because I don't want to get it full of stuff before I need to pull it apart. So I hope you can't hear my dog barking, but my dog is barking outside. I hope you can't hear him as much as I can. Now, when you're getting the bowl off or the blades off, Helen, you want to use the sort of like the hard part of your wrist, okay? So don't try and do it with the strength in your fingers. You want to actually use the strength in your wrist to move the bowl that way and take it off, okay? So that action. And then we get our blades out, and then we're all good. To put it back together, we turn it upside down, we hold our blades inside, and we just sit the base over like that, so it's just at the side, and then we just pinch it together. So you actually are using the pinch together mode action with your fingers. Now, it is quite stiff. Like mine is quite loose because this is an old bowl. It is quite stiff at the start, but once you wash it a few times and you undo it a few times, it will get looser. Now, there is this attachment, which is a Thermomix bowl opening aid, which is really useful, and they haven't had it out for very long. So it just sits on your bench. Hopefully you can see that. There we go, like that. And your Thermomix your bowl just goes in it, and it actually lets you do that on the bench. So you don't have to use your wrists if you've got issues with your wrists. Again, you could actually just leave it like that because you don't have to wash this bit up because it never gets dirty. So you could actually leave it on your bench like that. Wash your bowl up, get it out of the dishwasher, put the blades back in, make sure the blades are in, and then you just sit the Thermomix back down on top of there, making sure it's all in right, and then again you just push it again and it does that. So if you've got issues with not being able to do your bowl, that's probably a good thing. And if they're not at the mix shop still, I have one, but I think they would be still at the mix shop. So yeah, that's how we do our bowl. Now, again, with the bowl, all can go in the dishwasher. All your bits and pieces for your Thermomix are 100% dishwasher safe. And if you do get browning on your bowl, sometimes you will get, because we can do high heat now, sometimes things do brown onto the bottom. So those of you who've got a TM31 have never seen probably a burnt bottom of your bowl, but this new Thermomix or this TM6 Thermomix gets a lot hotter, so things do brown onto the bottom sometimes. You can just give that a good scrub with, you can use like one of those non-abrasive like scouring pads. You can actually use steel wool if you want. You're not going to hurt the stainless steel bowl, but some people don't like steel wool. But anything that can just give it a scrub, whatever chemical you're happy using, all the rest of it, you're not going to hurt this stainless steel bowl. It is very, very high quality. Rightio, we're going to make vegetable stock paste because just in case is there anybody that hasn't made vegetable stock paste? I wonder. Oh, you haven't, Betty. Okay, well, this is for you, Betty. But the reason why we make vegetable stock paste is it's a good one to show you how bigger bits you can put in the Thermomix. Because sometimes I go to people's houses and they're putting a carrot in the Thermomix and they've chopped the carrot into, like, 50 little pieces. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't have to do that. So the idea with the veggie stock paste, stepping you through it, is just to show how we actually can prep our stuff for this. And also, you need to have veggie stock paste because it is really the best thing since sliced bread with your Thermomix. Rightio. Now, when you go into the recipe, obviously your scales are going to come up. You can just press the tear button at the bottom. That takes them back to 0. With the veggie stock paste recipe particularly, it is a very loose recipe. You definitely don't have to have all of the ingredients. If you don't have a zucchini but you've got an extra bit of celery, chuck that in. It's not going to be make or break. So as you can see, I've also put the leaves of the celery. The celery leaves are really good for stock as well. So that's another little tip. Um, Look, not really, unless there's something that's a really strong flavour that you wouldn't want in there. I even put beetroot in my veggie stock once, and it obviously made it purple, and then it made everything I made purple. I had purple risotto for the whole time while I was doing that. But yeah, other than the colour, not really. Anything goes in veggie stock. So your carrots. So you want to chop your carrots into chunks, okay, like that, like chunks of carrot. You don't have to peel them. I've actually am doing a carrot for my next thing that I'm cooking on my next session, and I've peeled the carrot, so I'm putting the carrot peels in as well because it's all the good bits of the stuff. Brown onion in half. And I've just recently become a convert to actually putting the onion peel in as well, which I've been told since when I had my TM31, I've been told that you should be eating the onion peel. It's got lots of collagen and bits and pieces. I'm definitely not a nutritionist. I'm not giving advice on that, but there's lots of good stuff in onion skin. So chuck your onion skin in as well, if you're that way inclined. Tomato in half is fine for your tomato. Zucchini in chunks. Garlic cloves. You could actually leave your skin on your garlic cloves as well, but I did peel them tonight. I was trying to make it look a bit presentable. Now, I don't have a dried bay leaf because I was too lazy to get one. But now with the herbs, just whatever you've got. Do not go and buy herbs for veggie stock. And if you've got dried Master Foods herbs, use those. It doesn't have to be fresh herbs either. It's just to give it some flavour. So I've got some basil. What else have I got? I've got some sage, a few sage leaves. I grew all these myself, I might add, and some rosemary. Make sure you've got a little herb garden if you're going to get into cooking in your Thermomix, because there's quite often herbs needed, and herbs are really expensive. Buying, a whole thing of herbs just for one little bit that you're going to use as well. Another good tip if you ever are buying herbs or anything like that and you don't use them all, you can easily freeze any of those things until you're ready to make your veggie stock as well. So even if you've got a carrot that looks a bit, a bit lifeless or whatever, just chop it into a couple of pieces and chuck it in the freezer until you're ready to make your next batch of veggie stock, and then just chuck it in straight from the freezer, blitz them up. You might want to just add 5 minutes to the cooking time because you've started with frozen veggies, but it's more than okay. I've put some parsley in there as well, and now I'm going to pop the lid on and I'm going to blitz that up. So we just lid on, and then because I'm in a guided recipe, this is actually telling me 10 seconds, no temperature, and we're going to go around to speed 6. And you will see that there's like a little bit of a shadow on where it wants me to go, but one good flick of that, it will go to where it wants to go. Let me just grab a spatula. I actually don't have I don't have the right spatula. I'm going to use the new spatula. And I could have, while that was going, I should have put my spatula in through the lid, not this one, in through the lid. Your spatula will have a guard on it so that your spatula can actually go in through the lid and give that a little bit of a stir around, and so that all of those veggies got mixed up. Now, because I didn't do that, I've still got some stuff here on the top that hasn't been chopped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press back, and I'm going to do that again. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stir so that it does get that stuff on the top as well. So I've gone back, I go next, and then I'm going to go again for another 10 seconds. Okay, now this is good. I can hear that all of that got incorporated this time. All except one little onion skin, but he'll be fine. He'll get cooked up. Rightio, so we're going to scrape. Now, when it tells you to scrape down the sides of the bowl, it doesn't need you to be pedantic and get every little piece of stuff. It just wants to make sure that most of the ingredients are down, getting incorporated with what's cooking. Okay, now we're going in with our rock salt. And don't be scared about the rock salt. I know some people have a bit of a freak out about that there's too much salt in this recipe, but when this recipe is made up with the way that it, and some olive oil too, when it is made to the instructions, so 1 tablespoon makes, and 1 litre of water makes a liquid stock. When that is made up, this stock has got 1/3 less salt than Campbell's salt reduced liquid stock that you buy. So it does seem like a lot of salt, but it's not really in comparison when you're making it up, because it is a stock paste concentrate. Okay, so you are making a concentrate. And then we're just going to go next, and we're going to cook that for 20 minutes, 120 degrees, and on speed 1. And that is your veggie stock pretty much done. Now, have I got any questions so far? My next thing I'm making on the next session's got veggie stock, and I've actually bought my veggie stock down. I could just use this, couldn't I? My fresh batch. But anyway, all good. Any questions? Oh, actually, Betty, I'll talk about cooking rice. So brown rice really shouldn't take any longer than 30 minutes to cook in the Thermomix. The way you do it is you put water in the bowl, up to about probably the 1.2, 1.5 litre mark, okay? You put the simmering basket in, and I'm just trying to find the simmering basket, but it's not here. All my bits and pieces have left me today, but the simmering basket just sits inside of the bowl. Let me grab one. Oh. No, but I did find a spatula. I don't know where all my simmering baskets are gone. But anyway, we sit our simmering basket inside, and you can cook up to 400 grams of rice. Okay, so 300 is a good number. We've got a family of 5 people eating. 300 grams of rice usually does us quite well, but you can go up to 400 if you need to. What you want to do is you want to rinse that rice. So get it out in the simmering basket, take it to your sink, give it a really good rinse. With brown rice, you can actually soak it overnight as well if you like. If you soak it overnight, it's easier to digest, but you don't need to for the cooking process. Pop it back in there with the water, a little bit of salt if you like. Pop that on, and then you want to cook it, like I said, 30 minutes. 100 degrees or 120, you can put it up to 120 if you like, and you want to do it on like speed 4 or 5, because you actually want that water to be washing through the rice as it cooks. And what you'll find happens is it kind of moves the rice around as it cooks, but it also lets any starch or bits and pieces out of the rice, and you'll end up with that sort of sitting in the bottom of your bowl that you can discard. And then your nice fluffy rice in your basket is obviously the bit that you keep. So like I said, have a play with it, because all rice is different. I learnt lots about rice a couple of weeks ago. I did Primex, the agricultural show in Casino, and I actually did an interview with some rice growers, and every single rice we tried cooks at a different, or needs a different amount of time to cook, and it's all because of the different ways that they're processed, how much of the outside's been taken off, how much of the inside is left, and all that kind of stuff. So just try, if it's brown rice, I'd say start with 30 minutes. If you try it and it's still a little bit, a little bit tough or whatever, just pop it back on, maybe put it on for another 2 or 3 minutes. Make sure you get it up to that speed 4 or 5, so it's washing through as well. Well, Cherie, no, you don't. If you use rice cooker mode, you don't use the basket. But I don't really like rice cooker mode for that. Not for that reason, but for the reason that rice cooker mode is the same as cooking your rice on the stove absorption method. You end up with a bit of a gluggy consistency because it has actually absorbed all of the liquid that it's cooked in. So, and you also are left with all the starch and all of that. So the basket method for the rice, I think, is a better way to cook rice, and actually better for you as well. But yes, you definitely, if you're going to do rice cooker, not the time, temperature, speed, then you don't use the basket. The rice cooker mode is good for if you're going to do like a flavored rice. There's actually a beautiful recipe for a Chinese sausage rice, and you actually put it all in the bowl, and then like the Chinese sausage and the rice and everything and all the flavors and the bits and pieces, like you chop up the onion first and everything goes in there, and then it does do the absorption method, but it's more like a paella type of consistency, not just a nice fluffy rice by itself. So I think if you're going to cook rice, do the basket method if you just want nice plain rice. So Betty, I hope that helps. Yeah, I hope that helps. Well, risotto's its own recipe, Helen, and risotto pretty much is done like a rice cooker mode because it's absorption. You actually, that stock and everything ends up in your dish. So risotto is its own recipe. It's a different kind of thing altogether. But yeah, it definitely absorbs it all. The stock, how long does the stock last? So the stock will last in the fridge for 6 or more months, as long as you go into it with a nice clean spoon. You won't get any mold or anything like that because of that high salt content. It is actually like preserved as well. So yeah, some people freeze their stock. Maybe if you made the chicken stock, you might want to freeze it, but again, you don't actually need to because there's enough salt in it that you can just go straight from the fridge. But make sure you've got a nice clean spoon. That's my only prerequisite, because I have had some go moldy, but you can actually see where the spoon's gone into it, and obviously the spoon was dirty or had something on it, kind of thing. So yeah. So while the stock is cooking, let me quickly talk you through some of the do's and don'ts with your Thermomix as well. When you're using your butterfly whisk, so the butterfly whisk replaces sort of like your hand beaters or your mix master or whipping kind of thing. You will never be going over speed 4 with your butterfly, okay? And when you're putting the butterfly in, you just pop it in on top of the blades, and you want to be just behind the high blade. So you want the butterfly sort of to be pushing on the high blade. Normally it doesn't really matter where it goes in, unless you've got something that gets underneath it if it's not behind that high blade, and it can actually bump your butterfly off. The worst thing that will happen is you'll hear your butterfly kind of pinging around in your bowl, and you just stop, take the lid off, put it back on, and start again. It's not going to hurt it. And as long as you're not over speed 4, you will not hurt your butterfly ever. If you go up to speed 9, your butterfly will end up all through your food, and you'll be up for a new butterfly. So don't do that. Now your varoma, I don't know what I'm doing down here today. I don't know where all my bits and pieces have gone, but I don't even have my varoma down here. Your varoma just sits on top of your on top of your bowl. if you are expecting what you put in your varoma to cook, you must be on varoma temperature and have something liquidy that's causing steam in the bowl. Okay, so you can't just be, you know, on 60 degrees in your bowl and put something in the varoma and expect it to cook. You need steam to be happening for the varoma to work. And you can't see it on the screen, but I've got steam here coming up through here. That's what you need for the varoma to work. You need literally, you need that steam to be pouring out through the varoma. Always be on varoma temperature when you're cooking in your varoma, and always check, you know, if there's not good airflow, it will not cook as the recipe said, because when we've tested the recipe, we've had good steam airflow. Okay, so if you accidentally put a piece of chicken and over all of the holes at the bottom, and then your veggies up the top, and the veggies don't get any steam, they're not going to cook. So you want to make sure you sit things up, so you can put some egg rings in there or something to get them up off the holes so that the steam comes around the thing on the bottom, or put your veggies down the bottom and make a little hole and then put your chicken on top or something like that. You've steamed veggies in the varoma, but it was quite loud. It shouldn't be too loud, Betty. It should only be on, you probably, for doing steaming, you probably only need to be on speed 2 or 3. Do you know what speed you were on, I wonder? But I actually never thought the TM6 was loud. I've never ever said that it would be loud, but the TM7 is completely silent, and now every time I turn the 6 on, I think, gosh, it is making a bit of noise, but I never thought about it before until I got a completely silent one. So yeah, so you don't need to be, because we're not worried about the turning, it's all about the steam. So 1 or 2, you want it to be moving, because that sort of does make a little bit more steam, but you don't need to be up on the high speeds, which is the noisy ones usually. And Cherie said, highly recommend Cookidoo steamed eggs. Which steamed eggs? Cherie, the ones in the varoma in the muffin trays, or I wonder. Come off mute and tell us about it. Tell us all about a favourite Cookidoo recipe. Yes. Oh. Ooh. Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah, but it's, yeah. Ah. Excellent. Yeah, right. If I've got a lot of eggs to cook, I've got 2 silicone muffin trays that fit perfectly. One at the bottom of my varoma and one in the top of my varoma, and I think that's probably about, I think one's 6 or 7 holes and one's probably 6 holes. And you can just oil that, crack the eggs in and steam them in the muffin trays as well. That's quite a good way, and you sort of get cross between a poached. Sort of almost a poached egg, but they're not quite poached, but almost. They've got the same consistency, and same thing. You can stop it right where the yolk is how you like it as well, which is a bonus as well. Yeah, cool. Okay, excellent. Thanks for that tip. Okay, so the other do's and don'ts is making sure that our pins are nice and dry before we put them back on the base. You don't have to be pedantic with that. We just don't want them dripping wet. Okay, it's one of the things that we do find that happens is people put them back on dirty or wet, and we do not want that. Now, Cookidoo. I know someone asked about putting their own recipes in Cookidoo. So that's not covered in tonight's session because we'll be here all night if we cover everything. But every month we do Cookidoo lessons on Zoom where we just teach you about Cookidoo. So I highly recommend, I will send everyone an email that registered for tonight. I highly recommend registering for one of the Cookidoo sessions and learning a little bit about Cookidoo. And one of the best things about the Cookidoo sessions is at the end, everybody shares their favorite Cookidoo recipe. So like Cherie's just shared, something that she's found. There's over 90,000 recipes on there now. So you're not going to get through them yourself. You need to have recommendations from friends of what to cook. So, oh, very good. Sunny side up. Okay, I'll try that as well. We're really into our boiled egg mode at the moment for breakfast at our house, but I'll see if I can swindle some sunny side up ones as well. Yeah, so Cookidoo session, I'll send you the invite to register for that. And in our advanced Cookidoo session, we do teach you how to put your own recipe on Cookidoo. So that's one of the great things that we've just added to Cookidoo, or well, when I say just add, last year sometime. The ability to now, you can grab a Cookidoo recipe and make changes to it and then save it as your own, or you can put in your very own recipe and write it right from the beginning and save it as your own and then have step-by-step instructions on your Thermomix. So, and it's not hard. Once you see us do it once and you'll get the hang of it. And yeah, you can have all of those recipes in there as well. I've already told you that you can put it in the dishwasher. Making sure that when the Thermomix is kneading, that's the only time that you are not to leave your Thermomix. So sometimes when we're kneading, we do get a little bit of a rock. And then obviously if it does get out of balance, it could step off the bench, okay? It's a very worst case scenario, but we just say when it's kneading, it needs you. So stay close when you're doing the kneading step. What else have I got? Making sure that you never place your bowl back on top of your base without the blades in. The TM6 has actually got a little safety feature that it won't let it go all the way in without the blades, which has been a lifesaver. And actually, I haven't had anyone putting it back together wrong and filling the Thermomix with water, which is back in the TM31 days. That was our number one reason why people needed to send their Thermomixes back to service. We haven't had that with the TM6, so touch wood that doesn't happen to yours. But just making sure that you put it all together before you put it back near your Thermomix. So I always suggest to people maybe, making sure that there's a spot for your Thermomix bits before, after they come out of the dishwasher or something, and then, you put them together and put it back on the dishwasher. That's the system at our house. So, yeah. Now, talking about service, if anything was to go wrong with your Thermomix, even if it was your fault, just make sure that you let your consultant know and we will take care of that for you, making sure that the service department have a look at your Thermomix for you. The Thermomix warranty is very inclusive of pretty much everything for 2 years. So, definitely in that first 2 years, doesn't matter what it is, we'll fix it for you. After that, we still are pretty inclusive as well. But if it's your fault, it's probably not going to be covered after that. But we still will help you with it. So just making sure that you keep in contact with your consultant for any of your service bits and pieces as well. I think that's about it. Oh, I was just going to say about your and don't use unauthorized parts with your Thermomix. So as much as these new fandangled attachments and bits and pieces might look great that are for sale on Temu or somewhere, they're really not worth voiding your warranty. So only things that Vorwerk have approved have been tested to not overload the motor or bugger up anything in the Thermomix, okay? So only stick to Thermomix Vorwerk approved bits and pieces. Something like a thermoserver, you can use whoever's thermoserver you like. I don't care if you buy that from Kmart, but anything that actually goes in your Thermomix or is worked by the motor of the Thermomix, then make sure you stick to the authorized parts and bits and pieces. With your veggie stock, I think I said before, 1 tablespoon of veggie stock and 1 litre of water is a liquid stock. 1 teaspoon of veggie stock is about the same as 2 small stock cubes. So you can actually use the veggie stock in your normal recipes as well. So you never have to buy stock cubes, liquid stock, Vegeta, any flavored powders or anything ever again. That's like one thing that you can just stop buying as soon as you get your Thermomix up and running. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful as well. I'm just checking my little delivery report here to make sure that I've told you everything. Any questions while I check this? Yep. Yep. I still do all my grating in the bowl because I do 1 kilo of cheese at a time when I do tasty cheese, and I do a whole block of Parmesan at a time, and then I freeze it. And I think it's still heaps quicker to just do it in the bowl. If I was really trying to impress someone and I wanted, flaked bits of Parmesan, I'd probably run it through the cutter on the fine slice. So I've got, flaky Parmesan, but otherwise in the bowl every day of the week. Yep. Yeah. Yep. 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 Definitely can do a whole block of Parmesan. There is, in the chop mode, there is all the recommendation of amounts and how long and all of that. So yeah, just if you've got something that's a bit that you're worried about, you're thinking it's overloading the motor or something like that, but you'll hear it. If it's overloading, it will tell you. And then obviously I don't recommend keeping going. If the Thermomix is struggling, stop it straight away. But it like I said, I do 1 kilo of cheese. I do 1 kilo of cheese in about 2 or 3 sessions. So I chop up my kilo of cheese into chunks about this big and that fit through there. I turn it onto speed 10 and I just drop them through the hole as it's going. So they're hitting the blades as they're already spinning. So it's not putting that pressure on the blades to get going because they're already spinning. I drop them in and I stop it and I empty it into a bag and I go again. And that's how I do my kilo of cheese. And it would take me less than a minute, probably. Yeah. Katrina, I made butter this week from a bottle of cream. Amazing result. But next time I would add a bit more salt. You can also add herbs and garlic. I know, how good. Yes. And definitely a bit of salt because we're actually used to eating a fair bit of salt in our butter. Because, well, especially if you use salted butter. But yeah, it is definitely sometimes it tastes a bit funny if you're used to having salt and not having any. So I'm going to show you quickly because we're nearly done. Okay, I've finished here. I go next. I'm putting it on, and now I'm on the blend mode. So you know how we were saying before that some of those modes are just in the recipe? Blend starts slow, and then it works its way up to full belt. Okay, and it's a really safe way to blend. Yeah. Now that's a whole minute of blending. I think that's probably excessive, but I think 23 seconds to go. We're all good. Now, just making sure that you always open that away from yourself as well when you've got something really nice and hot in there. And then just scrape it off the lid. Because that was full belt, some of it did hop up on the lid as well. And when we've got our jar, where am I? There, our jar. Take the MC off. Pop that over the top of your jar, and you can sort of use that as a funnel to pour into a jar as well. Most jars fit just inside or just outside of that of the hole, and then we are done. There is our vegetable stock paste. And if you were really into it and you wanted to preserve that, if you sterilized those jars and poured that in boiling hot like that, you can actually store that in the cupboard if you, as long as you've got a nice sterilized jar as well. But I recommend fridge 6+ months, you're good. And every time you make it, it'll be a little bit different color. If you put beetroot in there, it will be bright red. But yeah, whatever you've got. So yeah, that's our veggie stock paste. Now, have we got any questions, girls? I've got 5 minutes to spare. Yep. Yeah, so do you mean the cutter and the spiralizer? Let me just grab them. They are pretty easy, but it's a good question. Oh, let me get the whole thing. Actually, here's my whole bag of goodies, but not the things that I was looking at before. Because I will mention, because I think a lot of you got a glider board as well. So the glider board that your Thermomix sits on, to activate that, you just tilt it onto those little feet at the back. So when it's on these feet, it's stuck to the bench. But if you tilt it and it touches these, that's when it then slides. So to get the hang of that, you sort of just have to tilt it probably about that much, and then you can glide your Thermomix around the bench. But your bits and pieces here, this is really a bag of tricks, I tell you. Okay, so with your cutter, with the cutter attachment, which is this bit, you just pop your shaft in on top of your blades. It will only go one way. It will only sit in over it one way. You then just pop your bowl in on top of your bowl. You then choose whether you want to grate, which is grey, or slice, which is slate. And there's little pictures as well, but unfortunately it doesn't just say it. It's pictures, or you have to remember the colour. I don't know why we can't just use words, but anyway. Grey for grate, say, and you want to put the side that you want to use facing up on there, okay? And it just clicks in. That's really easy. And then you just pop that on. You go into the mode like that. You go into the mode that you want and you select thick or thin. And that does grating, thick or thin. If you then want to do slicing, you take that off, you swap it over. You then pop it on, you go into slicing, thick or thin slice on the mode, and then that's Bob's your uncle. Now, if you are doing the spiralizing, that's this attachment, you put in your green one if you want to do noodles, like little thin spirals, and the black one if you want to do flat spirals, okay? And to put that in, it is just, you just click it in like that. It just clicks in at the side, and it's just an in and out. Very, very easy. That then, again, it only will go in one way, and your pusher, this pusher part, has to be over the top of where the blade is, because obviously the food goes down, it has to touch the blade. Whereas with this one, it doesn't actually matter where it is because it spins all the way around. But this one, only that little bit spins. So you've got to line that up, and then you've just got to pop that on. It'll only go again on one way, and then you go into spiralizing, thick or thin, or noodles, or thick or thin still, and then take it out and put the other attachment in if you want to do the flat one. And you've got two different pushers. So that one pusher does like sort of holds the vegetables to go into the spiralizer, and the one for the cutter, which hasn't been washed up very well, one for the cutter actually is flat and it goes all the way down because it pushes it all the way to the bottom so you don't get any wastage. So they're your two bits, and then you just have your other option for your spiralizer. And then you also probably would have got a blade cover peeler, which just goes over the top of your blades. It doesn't need any of these bits, and that's what you use for your slow cooking or your potato peeling or boiled egg peeling in the Thermomix as well. Again, you just go into the recipe and it'll help you with that as well. So hopefully that was a quick 5-minute, all the accessories. Thumbs up, thank you. No. Onion I've done sliced onion. But I haven't grated ginger. I've never needed grated ginger. But you definitely could. It definitely would work. Have you tried? There's not many things. There's not many things that it won't grate or slice, to be honest. You don't want really soft cheese. It won't. It just mushes it. And you don't want. You can't do like pepperoni or fatty meats like that either. It doesn't do. It won't slice that nicely either. But that's the only thing I've found that it won't do. Yeah. Anyway, ladies, I've got to go now because I'm going to my next session, which you're more than welcome to come over to if you've registered. Does anyone want to come to the TM7 demo that hasn't registered? Speak now, forever hold the peace. Let me just end the recording.